Watch him duck and dodge and weave. Take a look.
I'm curious, would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want. Would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone. But do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look.
Affordable housing. How do you get affordable housing out of, will more police officers make your street safer? How is affordable housing going to make your street safer?
Okay, but that's not the question I asked.
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? Would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported.
Now, just real quick, I'm going to get back to the video. I don't understand how this man, and I want to be really nice right now. Okay, help me understand this, y'all. How many of you watching actually want safer cities? Put a 1 in the chat or put a 1 in the comments. How many of you want to be able to raise your kids in an area where you don't have to worry about getting robbed, getting shot, some random victim of a crime? Drop another 1 in the chat or the comments. Somebody please help me understand, why is there so much pushback against trying to make things safer for the communities? I couldn't believe this press conference that I saw recently, where he's actually pushing back against what Donald Trump is trying to do. And I get a lot of people don't like what Trump is trying to do, and I understand where they feel like he's infringing on a lot of things, but it's like anything else. When you have done nothing, or everything that you have done is not working, it's time to do something else. And I think they don't like the fact that what Donald Trump is attempting to do is doing something else. And from what I understand from all the content and stuff that I've watched about what's going on in D.C., the majority, at least, the ones that don't have the voice or the media in front of them, the majority of people in D.C. are loving what they're seeing. They're loving being able to walk down the street. They're loving being able to go to their favorite restaurants. They're loving the fact of feeling safe. Who doesn't want to feel safe? Seriously, y'all?
Let me start by saying this. I do not take this executive action lightly. I would have preferred to work in a more collaborative approach. I would have preferred to do the work with our allies in City Council to pass legislation ultimately. And we were doing that. We were doing just that. But some of the leaders who we are working with are standing behind me today. But unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of time. We have received credible reports that we have days, not weeks, before our city sees some type of militarized activity by the federal government. It is unclear at this time what that will look like exactly. We may see militarized immigration enforcement. We may also see National Guard troops. We may even see active duty military and armed vehicles in our streets. We have not called for this. Our people have not asked for this. But nevertheless, we find ourselves having to respond to this.
So how many of you guys remember Lori Lightfoot? How long has this been going on in Chicago? I remember hearing about Chicago's crazy 10 years ago. And Lori Lightfoot kept getting elected and elected again. And now they even brought this man, I'm trying to be very nice here, into the same position, and he's got the same agenda, the same rhetoric. I don't understand it. You know, I don't have all the answers, y'all, but I know at its base, people want to feel safe. And I'm telling you, just the videos I've seen just over the last 10 years of my life of what's going on in this city with the crime, I wouldn't want to live there. So all these people standing behind him, I don't get it. I'm assuming these are people that don't live in these communities that are being totally chaotic. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. I'm assuming that the people standing behind him are the people that don't live in these communities that are being affected by all the crazy. I guarantee you he's not. He's probably got a security detail. You know, as the mayor, he doesn't have to worry about it. He's probably got officers standing outside his house. See, one thing I have learned, and we will get back to the video, is when you have something that doesn't affect you directly, you seem to dismiss it. But I guarantee you, if his family had been robbed at gunpoint, if he'd had a son or a brother or a nephew that had been shot or killed by violent crime, oh, he'd be trying to do everything in his power to make a change. But because he and probably everybody in that background behind him hasn't experienced it, they can't wrap their head around it. And it's sad. That's just reality. Until it hits your front doorstep, you typically don't care about it.
Reports we have received are highly credible. This is an erratic, impulsive administration, and it is not always possible to understand and know exactly how he will move. He could change his mind, he could reverse course. In fact, I encourage him to do that. But still, we take these threats seriously, and we find ourselves in a position where we must take immediate, drastic action to protect our people from federal overreach. I'm signing an executive order today that will launch the Protecting Chicago initiative. This is a project that builds on the months of preparation that we have done that has led up to this very moment. Protecting Chicago will ensure that every Chicagoan knows their rights, that every single family is prepared, and every part of city government is directed to protect the people of Chicago from federal action.
What I want to know is, how are you protecting Chicagoans when there is a large percentage of your population that is living in fear because of the crazy that's going on with all the killings and all the crime? Come on, man.
Directs our Department of Law to pursue any and every legal mechanism to hold this administration accountable for violating the rights of Chicagoans. This order affirms that the Chicago Police Department will not collaborate with military personnel on police patrols or civil immigration enforcement. We will not have our police officers, who are working hard every single day to drive down crime, deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president. This order affirms the CPD officers will be directed to wear CPD uniforms and refrain from wearing masks so that residents can clearly distinguish them from federal agents. And finally, as I said, it establishes the Protecting Chicago initiative, the most sweeping campaign of any city in the country to protect ourselves from the threats and actions of this out-of-control administration. We will protect our Constitution, we will protect our city, and we will protect our people. We do not want to see tanks in our streets. We do not want to see families ripped apart. We do not want grandmothers thrown into the back of unmarked vans. We don't want to see homeless Chicagoans harassed or disappeared by federal agents. We don't want to see Chicagoans arrested for sitting on their porch. That's not who we are as a city, and that's not who we are as a nation. My team and I have spoken with the governor, the county president, and with our federal delegation, and we are in complete alignment. The time for action is now. And with that, I will sign this executive order and then return for follow-up questions.
Less than a year ago, you guys remember all the video footage of the illegal immigrants that they were putting up in these high-rise hotels using a lot of money that the federal government was giving them for other purpose, but they were using this money to provide housing, to pay for food. There were videos that I saw where residents couldn't even use the park across the street from their house because it had been taken over by these illegal immigrants. We are not that far removed from that. It's funny how fast we forget what we were just dealing with. And we're just talking about Chicago. I mean, this was going on in a lot of cities in the United States. So how can this mayor stand there and paint this picture like Trump is this deranged dictator who's trying to, take over? Again, I'm not crazy about federal troops doing what they have to do, but I'm also a realist. And this is how I look at it. I get a cancer diagnosis, and the doctors tell me if you don't deal with this soon, you'll be dead within a year. So I go to the doctor, they start me off on the simpler things, some medications, maybe some chemo, and they try it for a few months and it doesn't get any better. Then they say, hey, it's not getting any better, it's coming back with a vengeance. We're going to have to try radiation, or we're going to have to try something different. If what they are doing isn't working, most people are going to pull out all the stops to figure out what they need to do to get it to work. How many years have we been watching young black men act a fool, not only in Chicago, Atlanta, Baltimore, some areas in New York? I mean, it is rampant in a lot of cities. Kansas City, I can't even think of how many cities. Cleveland, I mean, it's everywhere. And the point I'm trying to make is Trump is trying to do something. Okay, he's trying to get rid of that cancer because you only got 6 months to live. And again, it's probably not the best analogy, but the point I'm trying to make is when what you're doing ain't working, you need to try something else. And from what I see.
Yeah, well, look, we're a welcoming city, first of all, so that ordinance has been in place for the last 40 years. We strengthened it under my administration. So the moment that President Trump secured enough electoral votes to become the 47th president, we are fully aware of his animus against working people and particularly immigrant communities. So that preparation was making sure that all of our sister agencies and city departments understood their assignment, and particularly making sure that people know their rights. And so that's been a continuous process all the way up until the time in which I had to testify before the Oversight Committee. And then even well beyond that, we've seen this president trample all over our Constitution. So, we've already filed multiple lawsuits, I believe 40 lawsuits. You just saw that the courts have deemed most of his taxes to benefit the ultra-rich or illegal. So this is not a surprise to us in terms of his erratic and petulant behavior. But this is also about making sure that we are strengthening all of our departments across the board to ensure that we are protecting Chicagoans. That's what this is about. Of course, we would have preferred to go through the natural course of the legislative process, and we will continue to do that with our investments. But this is about protecting the people of Chicago.
I guarantee you, if you took a poll in that city, the majority of people who don't feel like their rights are being protected or their families are being protected.
Well, one of the things that it does is it ensures that there's a clear distinction between our local police department and federal agents. It gives a very clear directive, but it also gives very specific directives to our law department to make specific FOIA requests so that if there's any immigration enforcement that's happening in our city, we have to know about it. Just back in June 4th, there was an entire operation in our city that the federal government didn't disclose. This is about uncovering the truth. But this is also about making sure that every single legal measure that's available to us, that my law department pursues it. But it's also ensuring that all of our departments are in lockstep to protect Chicagoans. That's what this is about. This president continues to go well beyond the bounds of the Constitution to the extent in which our democracy is in peril right now. I'm going to do everything in my power as the mayor of this city to protect Chicagoans.
How important do you think it is to be ahead of this before any federal agents are in Chicago to make sure that CPD and federal law enforcement know how to work together? And there's a lot of coordination that happens between those two, and I think this is a step forward, correct, to make sure that you're taking out federal agents from the shadows and defining what we expect.
Well, look, you framed it quite well. And quite frankly, the reason why this executive order is so paramount is because even though we know that this president is behaving outside of the bounds of the Constitution, it hasn't stopped him, but it stops in Chicago. And so this is about making a very clear distinction between what our law enforcement engages in versus what federal agents engage in. Because look, we have collaborated before, particularly getting guns off the streets of Chicago, the trafficking of drugs, the trafficking of human beings across this country. You know, we have just had a major breakthrough where guns that were trafficked in from Indiana and Mississippi, we were able to interrupt that and get over 150 guns off the streets of Chicago. That's not what's happening right now. And so this executive order makes it emphatically clear that this president is not going to come in and deputize our police department.
Violet Miller, Chicago Sun-Times. I just wanted to ask, these reports that you're talking about, is this what we've been hearing about in the media? Is this a new report that's been confirmed to the city? Where are you guys hearing this? And when will the city residents be informed of what the city knows of this?
Well, I'm telling you what the city knows, right? And here's what we do know, that the federal government, under the direction of President Donald Trump, is preparing to send an expansive slew of federal agents to the city of Chicago. And whether it's border control, ICE agents, right, this part, which is the most upsetting, is that he has funded the ICE division of the government at a rate that is only second to the American United States government and the Chinese.
Do you know why he did that? Do you remember how many friggin' illegal immigrants crossed over that border? Remember all the crazy and the chaos going on at the border? It's like crickets now. So yeah, I don't blame him for overfunding ICE and trying to, because I'm telling you, I'm not against people coming into this country the right way. But if you come here the wrong way, no other country does what we allowed under Biden to happen. So shut up, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. Can't take the crazy anymore.
And that's dangerous, right? And so we are hearing that he plans to send these individuals to the city of Chicago this week as early as Friday. But let's be very clear what his ultimate motives are, though. He wants to send in federal troops. Make no mistake about it. He wants to send in the National Guard. He is looking to provocate, to justify his failures. And the fact of the matter is, it's disrespectful to law enforcement. Our police department has worked incredibly hard to drive down violence in the city of Chicago. This is not about violence reduction, because if it were, he would be making investments. And I can tell you what those investments have done thus far. 32% reduction in homicides. Shootings are down almost 40%. Shooting victims are down almost 40%. So this is about the militarization of cities. And in the city of Chicago, we're going to be very clear about our position to protect democracy, to protect Chicagoans, to protect our people.
You know, one thing I will add, having been a former police officer for a lot of years, I guarantee you, if I worked in a place like Chicago, cops would welcome the assistance. Trust me on that. I'm sorry, I can't take much more of this mayor talking. We are a welcoming city. Yeah, welcoming for criminals and illegals. And what's so crazy is, like I said earlier, you're a welcoming city. But what did you do? You turn your back on your own citizens. I can't count how many videos I saw with residents that were complaining because the illegals were getting better benefits. They all had cell phones. They were giving them money. They were putting them up in these nicest places. But then you had homeless people that have been living on the streets for years. This is crazy, man. They wouldn't even put the homeless people up, but they'd put the migrants up over the homeless people. How is that looking out for your people? This is all a big movie that we're watching. It's all scripted. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but I believe that's what this is, because none of this makes any sense. None of it. Okay? So, again, I don't know where they find these people, like the Lori Lightfoots and the Pritzkers and the Newsoms and this mayor right here. I don't know where they find these people, but there is clearly a deeper agenda behind the scenes. And I don't think many of us will ever really find out what the truth is really behind it. But again, bottom line is, I'm tired of the crazy. I'm sure you guys are tired of the crazy. And I hope that Donald Trump does send troops in there, because my heart is for those people that have to live in these cities. I'm blessed that I live out in a rural area, Southeast Ohio. I don't have to worry about crime or nothing, but I can also have a little bit of compassion and concern for the people that have to live in these areas where they're dealing with this crazy. I get it. I totally get it. So my heart goes out to them. And it's sad that their leaders that they elect don't do anything or go to fight for these people. But they'll fight for all these illegal immigrants that came over here, that had nothing to contribute. The people that were born in this country, that have lived in this country, that have fought for this country, that have, been there, have been treated like crap. And I'm talking just in Chicago. And again, just go back 6 months, 8 months, and just watch what was going on in many of these Democrat cities with these illegal immigrants. These illegal immigrants were getting Medicare, they were getting free medical benefits, they were giving them a monthly stipend, they were giving them cell phones, they were getting them food vouchers, and people that actually fought for this country, homeless veterans, couldn't even get a bed, but they were putting these people up in the nicest hotels. Come on, y'all, make it make sense. I'm done ranting. It just blows my mind, this craziness that we see in this world. Make sure you like this video. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And as always, I love you guys, and I will check you on the next one. Later.